The show starts with mercenary snipers in the northern desert of Africa staking out a target. One is Russian and the other is Korean.
This is some bullcrap mission.
The Russian sniper complains about their working conditions and continually insults the Korean sniper. The target drives towards them, and the Russian shoots their tire to slow them down. The occupants of the car come down, including a lady who turns out to be the target. When she takes off her scarf, the Korean sniper recognizes her and is stunned. Despite orders from his handler and partner, the sniper refuses to shoot. The scene cuts to a video of a young man bragging about his taekwondo and combat skills, but hurting himself and others when displaying them. He's a stuntman auditioning for a role in a kung fu movie. For one of his stunts, he gets hurt and his nephew, who loves him very much, sees him bleed. His nephew starts crying, but he reassures him and eventually gets the role. He spends most of his time with his nephew, sometimes training him. The stunts get more and more dangerous over time, with some sending him to the hospital. Elsewhere, two weapons companies compete for a federal aircraft contract worth trillions of won. The companies are Dynamic Systems and John and Mark. They display their jets to the Korean Ministry of Defense. Both jets are competent, but the Dynamic Systems jets are cheaper, meaning Korea can buy more of them. The stuntman, Sha Dao-jun, decides to quit his job because it is getting too dangerous. His nephew Hoon calls him to tell him the bills are unpaid. Despite having no money, he promises to do so with the proceeds from his job. However, when his nephew rings his job to reach him, he is told his uncle quit, which really upsets him during dinner later. The next day, they find out Hoon has been invited to a taekwondo tournament in Morocco, but Hoon is unenthusiastic because of the expenses. Meanwhile, in Morocco, a young woman drives to a meeting in the Korean embassy about the incoming taekwondo competition. She is very late but gives excuses for it. She tries to participate in the meeting but realizes it is already over. She is scolded for her tardiness and is left behind in the conference room. She pretends to be apologetic but starts searching the office as soon as they leave. She then looks for a hidden device which she finds and hides. She is interrupted by a coworker but evades getting caught by pretending to have a wardrobe emergency. At John and Mark, the lobbyist, Jessica, gets increasingly desperate as she realizes the government is leaning towards granting the contract to Dynamic Systems. She threatens the Vice President Michael, who is revealed to be ex-CIA, that the contract must be secure at all costs. On the morning of the trip to Morocco, Hoon is still very upset about his uncle quitting his job and refuses to tell Cha why, even refusing to eat. Meanwhile, in Portugal, the VC of John and Mark is being chased by armed assailants. He manages to escape and tries to reach the airport for some assistance, but then he realizes his phone has been hacked and taken over. He finds a payphone and calls the airport with it, alerting them to cancel a flight bound for Morocco. He tells them the plane is going to crash just before being attacked and kidnapped. On the morning of the Morocco trip, one of the occupants reveals to her husband, Park, that she is pregnant. Just as they are about to depart, Hoon leaves a message for his uncle apologizing for his behavior and says he will be uploading videos to the cloud. Hoon also notices a strange man in the plane but does not think too much of it. Just then, the airport command received a crash call from the VC in Portugal. The attendant who receives the call tries to inform her superiors, but then there is a fire alarm. In the chaos of the event, a suspicious coworker pierces her with a poison syringe, which kills her. It is then shown that Michael, the VC, was shot dead in a car. A young woman in Morocco, an intern known as Gohari, goes to Portugal, and her coworker finds it suspicious. Shortly before that, the head of the embassy had been arrested just a day before the kids were to arrive. In the plane to Morocco, the shady man Hoon noticed earlier starts sneaking around the plane, setting up a device in the cargo area. Shortly after, one of the engines fails and the plane begins to crash. The pilots try to reach out to the control center, but the shady man overrides their controls remotely. In his last moments, Hoon tries to text his uncle but passes out before he could hit send. In Korea, while Cha is having breakfast, he sees the breaking news of a plane crash with all 211 passengers killed, and he is mortified. At a press conference afterwards, the president addresses the public and briefs them on the possible cause. The plane, said to be made by Dynamic Systems, had an unexpected engine failure, which led to the crash. Cha eventually finds the videos left for him by his nephew and cries some more. Dynamic Systems holds an apology press conference where bereaved family members storm the conference. This creates bad publicity for the company, which affects their federal aircraft bid. Cha then goes to a mass funeral in Morocco sponsored by Dynamic Systems. While there, he spots a man who looks similar, the shady man from the plane. He recognizes him from playing his nephew's video over and over. He follows him, passing Go Harry, and the shady man eventually realizes he's being followed, which leads to a hot chase. After tagging along for a while, they meet in an alley where they start to fight. After an intense battle, the shady man knocks Cha out and runs away, but Cha wasn't out for long. He recovers and continues going after him but follows him from a safe distance. He eventually jumps onto the truck from a tall building. He hangs onto the truck despite the efforts to shake him off and eventually breaks into the car. After a risky car battle where they avoid multiple after accidents, the shady man who crashed the plane was able to kick Cha out of the car. He thinks Cha is dead, but he crawls out later and yells after he is gone. In Korea, the aggrieved family members of the plane crash victims meet with the chief negotiator of Dynamic Systems. He consoles them as best as he can, even though they are very upset at first. He tells them he has also been a victim of plane crash losses and that they will be compensated adequately. Go-Parai receives a phone call from her supervisor, then goes outside to see Cha injured and bleeding. He stumbles into the room and tries to convince them he saw a survivor from the plane crash. However, he's not very believable. They all look at him like he's crazy. He tries to back himself up by asking Go if she saw him and pulls up the video from his drive, but she says she doesn't really remember. They start to get more suspicious and decide to check airport security footage. The video doesn't match the description. They think he's mistaken. Meanwhile, the shady man tries to find info on his pursuer and is surprised to hear he is just a stuntman. Later, Cha copies the videos from his drive and into a physical drive, suspecting a cover-up. He then keeps the physical drive in a safe in the hotel. When he steps out to look for Go, a man comes in through the window and tries to crack the safe. Cha goes to her apartment and snoops around looking for her, thinking she's part of the cover-up. She sneaks up on him and has him at gunpoint, but he takes it from her and starts to interrogate her. He searches through her stuff, including her box of underwear, where he finds her IDs and fake covers, revealing she's a special agent with the NIS. He eventually unties her and asks for her help in finding the terrorist. She sends the video to a colleague, Gong Hwa-suk, at NIS, who then saves the file on her physical flash drive. At the Blue House, the president and his team are conflicted on who to grant the aircraft contracts in light of the plane crash. All the while, Dynamic System executives try to defend their products in front of the public, while Jessica, the lobbyist for John and Mark, highlights their operational failures.
Dynamic System에서 만든 B357.
NIS, one of Go Harry's superiors called Gang, gets a call from her for assistance in seeing the flight recorder. She tells him someone may have survived the crash, and there's reason to suspect foul play. He agrees to help her investigate as he was suspecting foul play of his own in the death of Michael, the John and Mark VC. He believes it is not a suicide as assumed as he worked with Michael in the CIA. He asks Jessica if he knows why Michael killed himself, but she says it is private and cannot share it with him. The rest of the grievers go back to Korea, but Cha stays behind. While trying to spread the plane video online, he finds out they have been wiped from the cloud entirely. Stunned, he runs to his room fast enough to spot a thief who cracked his case. The thief gets away, but Cha spots an accomplice dressed as hotel staff and gives a hot pursuit. He manages to subdue the accomplice in the kitchen area of the hotel, but the accomplice pretends not to know English and Cha is apprehended afterwards by hotel security. Go Harry's co-worker, Gong, is able to figure out what was said by the terrorist. But before Go can write it down, she is interrupted by her co-worker who tells her that Cha was arrested. Go goes to the local jail, and her apartment is broken into by terrorists. He goes into a laptop and sees the video of the nephew and himself on the plane, realizing he had screwed up. In jail, Cha reminisces on his first meeting with his nephew before being taken to a police interrogation. He tries to tell him about the hotel guy working with the bomber, but they do not believe him and there is a language barrier. He is forced to take matters into his own hands and attacks the janitor. The local police then threaten to shoot him, but he is saved by Go. Go gets a tip from Gang that leads her to see the flight recorder from the crashed flight. There she discovers evidence that the bomber and the co-pilot were working together and that both were still alive. The forensic specialist decides to help her investigate, but unfortunately is shown to be working for John and Mark. Meanwhile, the bomber is destroying Go's laptop in her house when he gets a text to abandon the rest of the mission, saying he has already failed and a dead man for being so exposed. Go Harry's embassy colleague then bails Cha out of jail with a promise to be repaid later.
뇌물을 썼어요? 그럼 뭐 딴 방법 있어요?
While leaving, they stop at the gas station to get something to eat. Cha walks into the store and is followed by an armed man who tries to kill him. He evades the man, puts an inflammable can in the microwave and escapes. On their way out, Go's embassy colleague is shot in the back. Go goes home and finds her laptop gone, but before she can react, she's immediately attacked by a masked man who tries to kill her. She tries to fight him off, but he's much stronger. She reaches for a pair of scissors and stabs him in the leg. She then gets a gun, but it is unloaded. However, she threatens him, and she finds out that the masked man was the hotel cleaner from earlier. She gets his phone and calls the person the hotel cleaner was in contact with, who she assumes paid the cleaner to kill her. She calls the number only for Cha to pick it up. This is because Cha was with her colleague's phone.
Hello. Hello?
Who is in surgery after getting shot in the back. Cha tried to find him for some explanations, but he had escaped from the hospital. Cha then chases after him. Cha meets up with Go during the chase, and they both catch up with her colleague. Before they can get any answers, he eats a poison pill and warns Go to avoid those people, as they are terrifying. Just then, they realize a sniper is trained on them as it tries to take them out multiple times. They try to outsmart the sniper, with Go making a decoy run. However, he recovers fast and almost lands a killing shot on them, but was stopped at the last second by members of his own organization. Back in the NIS office, there is a flash inspection with seizures of files, including the hard drive where the video Go sent her colleague was saved. Gom desperately tries to get it back, but fails. Go calls Gang to inform him of all her findings. He then directs her to tell the NIS director by herself, who orders her to come back for a full briefing back in Korea. She wants Cha to tag along with her, but he says he's going nowhere until he finds the bomber and Kim. However, she manages to convince him that he can track them better from Korea. The case is put under the jurisdiction of Agent Guy. Guy is a do-good and stern NIS senior agent who Go used to have a crush on. While the NIS agents are trying to look over the video evidence, they realize a file-corrupting virus has been launched into the NIS database. Meanwhile, at John and Mark, they get more desperate about securing the contract from the government. Jessica starts to blackmail government officials and defense aides. She then seduces the Minister of Defense with proof of everything for future blackmail. In Morocco, Cha and Go argue over who gets to stand guard, but Go sleeps shortly after. She wakes up to find Cha crying over Hoon and starts to feel bad for him. As Cha and Go leave Morocco,
수상하네. 엄청 수상해.
the bomber, who was also the sniper, was apprehended and brought to the leader for punishment. He is then quickly killed. Just as the operation is kicking off, the Director General of NIS is asked by someone in the Blue House to kill the investigation. The DG and Kai Dong tells his directors, who are suspicious of the move but obey anyway. To deal with Cha and prevent him from causing any waves, John and Mark reach an assassin known as Lily. She negotiates a high price and is told to make Cha's death look like a suicide. Cha and Go bond over their losses on the flight back home. Immediately after landing, Cha is attacked by hidden agents who plan to electrocute him and then poison him to look like a heart attack. However, at the last second, Cha thwarts their plan and escapes. However, that doesn't stop Lily, who moves to other plans. At a restaurant with Go and Gom, it is revealed that information on the possible culprits have been wiped from the NIS database. Cha steps out from answering a phone call, and he is approached by a reporter who is investigating suspicious events. He claims to be investigating the dead airport staff
그 제보 전화번호는 경찰관이.
from the beginning who tried to report the predicted plane crash. The journalist then explains to him how the federal jet bid may be related to the plane crash. The reporter then specifically asks him to avoid the NIS as they are compromised, including Go and her friend. They then go to a motel where the reporter says an informant was waiting for him. Cha tags along with him, and Go spots them as they leave the cafe and tails them to the motel. At the motel, the reporter goes in first to not arouse any suspicion, but he takes a while, and Cha gets impatient and goes after him. He goes into the room to find the reporter dying and bleeding heavily. In his last moments, the reporter passes him a flash drive. While calling the police, he was attacked by the killer. Cha manages to escape the attack and goes on a high-speed chase against the attacker, who eventually gets away because Gong is a slow driver. The police arrive after being called, but on getting back to the hotel room, the reporter's body is gone. They consult backup security footage, but it has all been wiped. Naturally, the policemen do not believe him, but Go does. Cha goes to a support group meeting where he sees grieving families. Among them is the wife of the co-pilot, Oh Sang-mai. Go breaks into the flash drive given to Cha by the reporter and finds information on the co-pilot of the crashed plane named Kim. She finds out that Kim had a large life insurance payout for his wife and shares this with Cha. Cha confronts Kim's wife and asks her where her husband is. She is stunned, but the rest of the grievers assume he's been irrationally again and go as far as knocking him out. While taking him into the hospital, they run into Mr. Edwards, CEO of Dynamic Systems. He then assigns her to take him to the hospital. Cha decides not to go to a hospital, and eventually they tell Edwards everything they know. Edwards is surprised Jessica would go so far for a government contract, and he offers them a safe house to keep them until things clear up. They go to the safe house, but it is already under surveillance from Lily, who is waiting for the right time to strike. While there, Cha and Go bond over whom some more. Finally, back at the NIS, Go is invited up to explain her report, and she is told there would be no further investigation. She protests severely, but she's angrily told off and warned not to mention a word of it again.
그놈들이 죽여놓고 자살로 위장했을 가능성.
Guy and gang are unhappy about the dropping of the investigation and lament about how toothless they are nowadays, just mouthpieces for government propaganda. Meanwhile, Park, the man who body slammed Shah at the group meeting, invites him out for lunch, and they become friends. While driving to lunch, his car is hacked remotely by Lily, causing him to lose control and have an inevitable accident. Shah uses his skills as stuntman, take command of the situation, and drives through all the obstacles on the road. Lily struggles to chase after them because they need to be in close proximity for the hack to work. Shah drives through much of the city, destroying everything in its path. The car only stops when Shah crash lands it on purpose. Lily is surprised that he survived. She is finally able to kill him, but it is too public and his death is meant to look like an accident. Shah then tows the totaled car to a charity event held by John and Mark where he confronts Jessica. She denies having a hand in any murder, and Shah goes off to talk to the media about what he knows. However, Jessica is better trained and convinces the media that he's crazy.
비난 기사는 최대한 삼가해주세요.
Shah talking to reporters causes a lot of trouble for the NIS as they have to explain why the plane crash investigation is not active. Go and her friend Gong were sternly warned to stay off the case, keep Shah quiet. Go goes to Gang for help, and he tells them to follow orders. But Gang also realizes Michael cannot have committed suicide, as he is left-handed but the trigger was pulled by his right hand. Hill realizes that the only evidence they now have is the video that was seized by the inspection team. She arranges to steal a key from one of her colleagues and sneaks into the NIS building. She then finds the flash drive and hack it, only to find it infected by a virus which suggests a mole at NIS working for John and Mark. Go eventually tell Cha that the investigation has been halted and will not be moving forward. He's very upset and accuses her of helping them cover up, but she says she has no power beyond what her superiors have sanctioned, and she has done the best she could. The next morning, Go realizes the president is meeting with the grieving families and comes with a plan. She calls up Cha to meet at his place. While she was on her way, Cha got a visitor, a new neighbor offering him cakes.
두고 갈게요.
잠깐만요.
However, she sprays a substance on his face that makes him unconscious. He was taken to an ambulance just as Go arrived. Before they can poison him to death, Shah breaks free and attacks everyone in the vehicle. The ambulance crashes, but they leave him there since the police were close by and the death had to look natural. Go and Shah head to the president's office to be heard more directly, but were stopped at the entrance because they were not invited. However, Cha finds a way to remain in the Blue House and escape notice. However, he is eventually caught after a long battle with the house security. The Prime Minister spots the commotion and decides to allow him in. He proudly states that the plane crash was an attack and that the NIS was covering it up. With the media in the room, it causes a large scandal in the NIS. The wife of the co-pilot, Oh Sung-mi, faints. Go is convinced she has lost her job and prepares a resignation letter, but is convinced by Min, her supervisor, to stay and be part of the blowback. The president and prime minister both think of ways to handle the situation and ultimately decide to distance themselves from it and make it an NIS problem. After Lily's failures, she is asked to step aside for a more fearsome killer. Shav is transported to a safe house where his phone is taken and is guarded by NIS officials. He asks when Jessica will be prosecuted, but was told to leave it to them. Oh Sung-mi is taken to a hospital and eventually recovers. She says nothing when she wakes up and nothing seems to crack her. Meanwhile, the new assassin gets ready to kill Cha as Lily gets jealous of him for stealing her job. All the NIS agents guarding the safe house are drugged by the assassins who had access to their food. This makes it easy for the assassin to walk into the house and look for Cha. Go wakes up before everyone else, but she feels very drowsy and ill. The assassin breaks into Cho's room but does not find him in there. He looks around for him but is pounded on by Cha, who is easily overwhelmed by the new assassin. Cha fights back, but the assassin gets the gun. Before he can kill Cha, he is shot and killed by Go. Cha takes out the assassin's phone and calls the most recent number to find out who the hirer is. Where the voice answers, Go recognizes it as Min's voice. To make it believable, Go sends a picture of Cha's bloody body on the floor. Min was also the one who asked Oh Sung-mi to stay quiet during all interrogations. Oh Sung-mi is eventually released as they had no way to tie her to the crimes. However, they place a monitor on her phone so she can be heard and found. Go calls Gang and tells him about Min, and he advises them to quietly leave the house as all the men there are loyal to Min. Go escapes the safe house and meets Gang in a secure location, with the killer's body in the booth of the car. Gang demands to look at the body, and gets even angrier upon recognizing him. The killer belonged to a North Korean black ops group, sometimes used by the government called the Unkillables. Go reports to Min that Shev is missing. Min scolds her, but he believes everything is secretly going according to his plan. All that's left now is to take care of the co-pilot's wife. Jessica sends in new unkillables to follow and kill Oh Sung-mi. However, Guy is also following her. She goes to a church where she has a phone hidden behind the cross. She uses the phone to call her husband, who is supposed to be dead in the plane crash, and the monitor on her phone records the call. Guy catches her red-handed, and she is immediately rearrested, but this time with proof. As soon as Guy reports the incident to gang, the NIS card is hit by a truck, rendering all occupants unconscious. The attackers took Oh Sung-mi and Si-chan nearby, now knowing that he was never dead and informing Min that he has been deceived. But before Min can take the call, he's apprehended by Go, who threatens to shoot if he moves. However, he escapes from Go in a moment of distraction. Following the breakdown of the affair, the director gives gang full power to conduct the investigation and bring all culprits to heel. Sha and Go visit Guy at the hospital after the accident, and Cha starts to notice that Go might have affection for Guy. Sha goes home sad and makes food for 2 people, remembering his nephew. Just then, Go visits him and they have dinner together. They drink afterwards, after which Go laments that Guy does not like her at all. Cha tries to wake her up so she can go home, but she kisses Cho while half asleep. Meanwhile, President and Prime Minister decide to use the Minister of Defense
이 양반 큰일 날 사람이네.
as a scapegoat for the events surrounding the aircraft contract. While driving down the road, Cha sees the reporter that he thought was dead. He chases after him, but can no longer find him anywhere. On the other side, unkillables are getting upset with their losses, and they torture Oh Sung-mi in anger. At the NIS, they decide to move the investigation out of office to avoid infiltration from another mole. The co-pilot's call with his wife is tracked to Morocco, and a task force led by Guy is dispatched to bring him in. Cha tags along without their knowledge, telling only Go. She gives him tips, and she updates him on their movements. Meanwhile, Moroccan law enforcement has been bribed by John and Mark to thwart the NIS plans and silence Kim by killing him. Kim, the co-pilot of the crashed flight, realizes his wife was caught through the news, mentioning the burner phone. He realizes they're onto him and destroys his phone, making it hard for them to monitor him. Kim is a substance addict and is able to get his product in groceries and water by sending a nearby Moroccan neighbor. Pilot is able to get drugs and groceries by sending. Go is placed on getting water and food for the team, even though she feels she can do more.
딴 사람 시키십시오.
She is followed by Cha, and they both run into the Moroccan, who runs errands for the co-pilot, but they did not know it at the time. Back in Korea, gang arrests Jessica for her role in the plane crash and surrounding events. Sha gets more and more impatient and wants to look for the pilot himself with Go. He tells her she is far beyond getting food, that she's one of the most talented agents. Cha starts staking out the suburban area with intelligence help from Go. However, despite his carefulness, he is spotted by the NIS drones. He's about to escape when he notices a lot of used water bottles, which alert him to the presence of Kim. He walks into the empty house and searches through the man's belongings for clues. He is then surprised by Kim, who places him at gunpoint. In Korea, Jessica is still under custody by the gang. He interrogates her and shows her evidence of her involvement, but she refuses to cooperate. Suddenly, an order comes from the Blue House to let her go. While she's being released, Moroccan police intervene and take Kim and Cha into custody. Cha is happy enough to have caught Kim, as it means they can now prove everything. Guy reports all the Morocco events to the director, which leads to the rearrest of Jessica. Guy is upset that Go and Cha went behind his back for the operation. He scolds them. Cha harshly stands his ground. The Moroccan police tell John and Mark that they can only hold the prisoners for 2 days. The director of the NIS is blackmailed into covering everything up again by Min and the senior secretary of the state, Yun. They do this by using information of his indecencies from his time in a previous role. However, he does not promise to help them, and he storms off angrily. He goes off to tell the president everything about the co-pilot. However, the president expresses support for John and Mark before he can do so. In order not to disappoint the president, he does not tell him the truth. Lily arrives at Morocco to join the unkillables in finishing the job. However, due to professional jealousy on both sides, they get into multiple heated arguments. Kim is interrogated and claims he only survived the crash because he escaped in time. However, he accidentally mentions the name of the bomber, Jerome. This immediately gives him away. Before they could press any further, he goes into shock from drug withdrawal. Go suggests some of Guy's morphine, which he took for his truck accident pains. He obliges, but Cha thinks they should withhold it in exchange for some answers. This leads to a fight between Guy and Cha. However, Go is able to withhold the drug long enough to get answers from Kim. After getting his high, Kim refuses to cooperate any further. He denies his previous statements. This upsets Cha, who tries to attack him. Guy stops him, leading to a fight that Go walks into. On the way to the airport, an angry Guy makes Cha and Go drive in a separate car from him. There's a traffic problem up front that makes them have to use an alternate road. However, the alternate road is also closed due to construction. Guy's car gets ahead of Go's car, and they lose each other. Meanwhile, Lily's team and the Unkillables team up to ambush them. Guy's team is trapped and brutally attacked by heavily armed assault team. Most of the NIS agents are killed, and Guy fires at a gas tank to buy them some time. Unfortunately, they didn't have any ammo, so were under constant assault, unable to return fire. Kim is shot in the thigh, which starts to bleed a lot. Chud drives to them and saves them from death, but they realize it may be difficult to get to the embassy. They call Gang for some help, and he makes some arrangements for when they get to the embassy. Meanwhile, the NIS director overhauls the investigation team into the crash. On request from the Secretary of State, Min is made the new head of the task force, and his first order of business is to arrest Gang. Gang overpowers him and his agents at first, but stops when he sees the director. He is taken to jail, but not after Jessica is released, mocking Gang. The group manage to get to the embassy, but they need medical assistance for Kim's leg. Without a doctor, Guy prepares to intervene surgically on the leg with some assistance from a surgeon. Shen notices that they've been followed, and the attackers are lying in wait just outside the embassy. Meanwhile, arguments get more heated between Lily and the Unkillables. Guy is able to stop the bleeding in the leg and stitch it up, but Kim had bled too much. The surgeon says he will die without a blood transfusion. Meanwhile, there is some growing bad blood between the Prime Minister and the Secretary of State, especially as regards the aircraft contract affair. At the same time, Lily and the head of the Unkillables get on each other's nerves even more. Go remembers from Kim's folder that his blood is O+. Sha is a match, so he donates some blood and is weak afterwards. Guy offers him some food, which he refuses at first, but accepts after Go pressures him. At John and Mark, they look for a quick and final solution to their problems. They decide to use Oh Sung-mi to testify against Dynamic Systems, but it only matters if her husband is dead and cannot give a different story. Min decides to use Gang's plan for backup to send a team of NIS field agents loyal to himself to enter the embassy without suspicion. Jessica goes to Oh Sung-mi, where she is being tortured by Unkillables, and secures her help in exchange for her life. Oh Sung-mi turns herself in. Guy speaks with the director, unaware that Gang has been arrested and the investigation is to be abandoned. He reminds them about backup, and the director promises their arrival in 2 days.
지원팀 도착할 때까지 절대 함부로 행동하지 마.
All of this plotting is being done behind the president's back, and the director of the NIS starts to get nervous. Min prepares the assault team and gives them permission to kill any agents that get in their way. While being moved, Gang subdues his agents and uses the time to contact the Blue House and give as much information as possible. He doesn't get enough time to escape, but he gets his message across and clears his call records. The president's aide gets the message and tries to take it to the president. Yun tries to intercept, but the aide refuses. The Prime Minister Hong then takes the message from them both and shreds it without getting to president. Gang somehow deduces that Senior Secretary Yun is the one in charge of everything. Gong is convinced to betray Gang for the made-up crime of selling army secrets to North Korea. She is made to sign a false testimony, but Gang anticipated this and told her to sign it so he had an inside man when the time came. At the embassy, Sha reminisces about Hoon, while Go reminisces about the teammates she lost and breaks down in tears. Sha wants to encourage her, but Guy wants her to deal with it herself. Oh Sung-mi makes a press conference saying that her husband Kim is alive and was guilty of crashing the plane. However, she lies and says it was all planned by Dynamic Systems, which causes further scandal. Gong is being watched at the office as they know she is somewhat loyal to Gang. To avoid suspicion, she calls a restaurant called Bullet Chicken and places an order for a kind of chicken called Vagabond. Her order arrives, and she pays under the careful eye of an agent loyal to Min. It is revealed that this restaurant and its code was told to her by Gang in a last-ditch effort shortly before arrest. Sha threatens Kim to get information, but just as he is about to harm him, the backup team comes in. Sha immediately finds it strange that the stakeout cars did not attack them. Just as they get in, Guy suspects that they are not Gang's team. He then gets a call from the chicken restaurant with an encoded message saying to avoid the backup team as they are assassins. Guy also gets a call from the director about the new orders, who tells him to cooperate if he wants to live. The men try to isolate Kim and Sha in their rooms, but Guy and Go provide alternative plans. Go then checks on them in their room and sees them adding silencers to their pistols. Sha walks up to the door to talk about Kim, but they immediately start to shoot at him. A fight ensues with massive gunfire, but Sha holds the leader hostage and dares them to shoot. Go gets a call from Edward's secretary Mickey, who gives her instructions on where to be, along with a timer that she says will help them. Go joins the standoff, but Guy stays away to avoid treasonous actions. However, he helps them by shutting off the power during the standoff. Guns are fired and the leader is shot, while Cha, Go, and Kim run off. They meet with Guy, who they think is about to betray them, but shoots behind them instead at one of the attackers. A long and deadly battle leaves many of the backup soldiers lost. The protagonists hide behind a room with a metal door, and the backup soldiers blow it up. The trio eventually run out of ammo and are about to surrender, but Cha holds up the timer and pretends to be holding a bomb timer. Unknown to him, it was actually a bomb which sent the rest of the backup team through the floor, maiming or killing them all. Guy finishes them off, then gives Go a number and codename to help her when she returns to Korea. He cannot go with them as he will be a traitor, so he fakes it to seem like a lucky survivor. Back at the Blue House, the president gives a speech to announce the expansion of the budget to accommodate the new jets, which now seem likely to go to John and Mark. Guy reports the situation to NIS and what happened with the backup. Min does not believe his version of events, but he is asked to return to Korea anyway. Secretary Yun is told by Min that Kim isn't dead, which ruins all of their planning. Min attacks Gang for orchestrating this failure, but Gang overpowers him until stopped by another agent. Min threatens to shoot Gang, but he calls his bluff and insults him. Min then asks his aide to poison Gang, so it seems like a heart attack. The aide orders food for Gang, who eats and immediately gets a heart attack. He is taken to a hospital where they try to resuscitate him, but he is pronounced dead. Jessica uses local police to look for Cha, Go, and Kim in Morocco. She gives orders for them to be immediately killed on sight. However, Edward's secretary Mickey is able to get them through checkpoints by showing them a tattoo. The local police chief is then killed by an unidentified person. Edward makes arrangements for them to return through a cargo ship, and Cha pledges that Kim will return to Korea alive. Guy and his aide are arrested as soon as they land in Korea. He is taken to Secretary Yun, who threatens him to tell him where Kim is or get killed. Guy stands his ground and is almost killed by Yun. However, Yun backs down and says Guy will get his job back, then give a media conference on a prepared speech. At the cargo ship, Kim cries out from his substance withdrawal symptoms. Cha is surprised that despite all the deaths, there is no single reference in the media. He gets annoyed at Kim's shouting that stuffs a sock in his mouth. Go is still trying to come to terms with the fact that she's under attack from her country. She goes to look for Cha, then ungags Kim. He then offers her money to release him. He tells her the government is fully controlled by John and Mark, and there was no use testifying in court. He babbles some more before Cha comes and Go hits him to shut up. However, Chev feels defeated knowing he can't defeat the government. Guy gets his brief from the superiors, and in the conference mentions that Cha, Go, and Edwards of Dynamic Systems were in cahoots and were the originators of all the recent commotion. Cha's friend, Park, tries to defend him, but is thrown out when he causes too much trouble. Mr. Edward is then arrested for the plotting of the kidnap of Mr. Kim. Go calls the number given to her, which was for Bullet Chicken, and gives the codename Vagabond. She is asked to hold, then the phone is answered by an alive Gang. Jessica is invited to speak with Edward, and she asks to turn off the cameras. She tries to get him to give up and call his bluff.
우리 사적인 얘기할 건데.
She also tells him that the long-term plan is to take over Dynamic Systems, and she offers him a CEO position there when fully taken over. Instead, he tells her to burn in hell. Just then, the team announces that they found Mr. Kim in Spain. However, they also notice his presence in France, Italy, and Turkey. Chev then shows up on their screen and taunts them, threatening to ruin their lives. The NIS then places tight surveillance on people that may be loyal to Cha and Go, including Guy, Gong, and other bereaved parents. Min reassures Yun that Kim will never get in the country. Edward is revealed to have contacted Guy a week prior, just as he entered Korea. It is revealed that he asked for Guy's assistance in helping Gang. Guy reaches out to Bullet Chicken, who sends Gang's lunch. It also adds a secret poison which seems to have killed him. The NIS try to keep Cha on the phone so they can track him. Chef fakes a negotiation to stall, but the Bullet Chicken hacker makes his IP untraceable. Edward's secretary Mickey is also on the cargo, but she doesn't know that they communicate with Bullet Chicken. Eventually, the NIS is forced to release Edwards without further proof. He debugs his phone, then stiffly threatens Yun. At the cargo, Kim was able to cut his binds and escape. Guy, Cha, and Mickey look for him. He eventually captures Go with a knife to her neck and demands a boat to escape. He scratches her neck a bit, and Go begs Cha to agree, fearing for her life. However, she is just stalling to distract Kim, and they both easily subdue him. Cha tries to clean up her bleeding neck, but gets flustered from being too close and has to leave. Back home, the president gets his new budget approved and the contract is signed with John and Mark. Jessica hosts a small celebration for the people of the Ministry of Defense. She then gets a call for an urgent meeting with Yun. Yun is eager to collect the president's slice of the pie, 5% of the total deal. The pay is completed, and Jessica uses the opportunity to ask for a meeting with the president. Cha and Go realize they'll need more than Kim's testimony. And since Kim is unwilling to testify, they ask him if there's any other evidence they can use. He mentions an Asian woman who was a girlfriend to Mr. Michael. She also introduces Mr. Michael to Jerome, the plane bomber. They ask him for a better description, but he says he never saw her face. He also says there's a video in his drive of him and Michael making the deal to crash the plane. Go confirms the location and time and arrival of their cargo ship with Gang, and he shares it with Guy using a secret code. Min is suspicious of him, but cannot find any evidence of wrongdoing. Immediately after, Go decides to turn herself in. She gives her conditions and tells Min to meet her at the port at New Delhi, India. He believes her at first and buys a ticket, but he looks through the video again and notices that her watch time cannot be India. He appreciates her plan, however, and starts to wonder if she has a mastermind unaware that Gang is alive. Shah wakes up to find Go with a jumpy shirt. He tries to pull it down, but she wakes up and slaps him. He tries to explain himself, but it devolves into an argument about bed space. He finally sleeps off, but wakes up to find her spooning him. No matter what he does, he can't shake her off. The next day, Min starts an operation and informs Yun of the location of the assailants, Wanyang Terminal. Yun asks him his source of information, and he says it's from an intercepted liaison of Go's called Polaris. Unfortunately, Min doesn't know Polaris is Gang. Yun tells Min that Kim is not to be arrested but immediately killed. The lead of the Unkillables, Kim Do-soo, and Lily start to get on each other's nerves some more but also start to flirt. He then receives a call for his latest assignment, following Guy, but keeping a safe distance, just to make sure he does not interfere with Min's plan. After following the tracker for a while, he realizes the guy was going back and forth. Suspecting foul play, he closes down the distance and finds out he had been following a delivery pack with Guy's phone in it. Incensed, Min discovers a bug in his phone placed by Guy and reverse tracks it to Incheon Terminal instead, signaling that that is where the real rendezvous is happening. Sha and Go keep bumping into each other in the container where they are being moved. They are eventually received by Guy, but Unkillables show up heavily armed to attack them. Meanwhile, Gong and Gang find a good vantage point for a sniper. Amidst the heavy shootout, Sha decides to run out to the car. Before that, Kim Do-soo throws a grenade that barely misses the container. Gang and Gong take out a few men and provide cover with the sniper while Cha gets the car. Everyone escapes, but Kim Do-soo tags along, giving a high-speed chase all the way to the court. Here, Shea uses his experience as a stuntman to evade them and their traps. In the meantime, some tension brews between the president and the prime minister over the bribe money offered and given by John and Mark. The president finally meets with Jessica and he takes a liking to her, causing a further rift with the prime minister. Yun is informed that the trio escaped from the port and are headed to the court. After the meeting, he tells Jessica, who starts to truly panic. Yun finally opens up to the president about the situation, but omits all of his crimes. He tells him all was planned by the VC Michael, who is now conveniently dead. The president, however, is upset because the contract has been signed, bribes have been collected, and this might look really bad on his administration. Yun offers two choices: return the money to keep your hands clean, or put the police on the trio to prevent them from getting to court. The president unleashes the police, giving them freedom to kill. Cha and Guy argue over who should drive, and they decide to make Go choose until they are chased by the police. At the court for hearing, the judge and court are surprised to learn that Kim, Cha, and Go will be attending as witnesses. The court proceeds anyway, and the defense calls its first witness, Ho Sung-mi. She says she has evidence that Kim worked with Dynamic Systems, and she backs with a bank statement that shows the transaction history between both. It seems believable, and an argument breaks out among the bereaved. Edward opposes the admission of the statement as evidence. This is because they are Swiss accounts with no name or ID linking them to Kim. However, the judge enters it into evidence anyway. The high-speed chase continues, even making it to social media. The grieving families, which were already on the side of John and Mark, were starting to wonder why the police were chasing them and not escorting them to the court. Park then rushes out to help them, and others follow. Jessica recalls Lily for a final shot. The judge gets a note from the Chief Justice to wrap up the trial as soon as possible, but instead, the sitting judge gives an extra 30 minutes to allow time for witnesses to come in. As the chase gets more intense, a TV helicopter follows them, making it harder to hide from the public. This upsets the Sec Gen, who threatens the TV station CEOs and gets them to back off. The threat works, and with no cameras, all of a sudden, they're trapped with no help inbound. Lily finds a nice sniper spot, and Min gives them 10 seconds to come down or get blasted. They all step down eventually to surrender, but they are heavily fired upon by the police and mercenaries anyway. They hide, and a rogue truck gives them the opening they need to escape. The car breaks down, and they complete the rest of the trip to the court on foot. park rams an incoming car to buy them some time. However, they are stopped right in front of the court, and Min promises to shoot if an extra step is taken. The bereaved families, realizing they had been played all this time, suddenly attack Min and his goons.
한 발짝만 더 돌아봐, 새끼야!
As Cha and Go head to the court, they are aimed at by Lily's sniper, who shoots Kim's arm. They are about to be killed when the bereaved surround them and form a body shield around them. Jessica asks Lily to shoot through it, but it's too messy even for her, and she abandons the mission. Just as they are about to finish the 30 minutes of wait time, the trio walk into the court. Kim makes the stand, and he admits to the court that all his wife said in the press conference was a lie. He also describes in detail how he was paid to crash the plane by Michael, the vice president of John and Mark. He then shows them video proof stored in his online drive. This completely dismantled John and Mark's case, and Min fled the court. He calls Yun to update him and plan ahead, but Yun shuns him and tries to distance himself from the entire situation. Min is aghast, and it's worsened when he's chased by members of the court. He tries to flee, but is nearly rammed by an SUV, and down came Gang, who Min thought he killed. Min is shocked and immediately attacks Gang, who easily subdues him once again. He beats him up until Guy intervenes out of genuine concern. The civil court gives Dynamic Systems an 11-1 fine for employee mismanagement and security failure. The bereaved families intercede, but Dynamic Systems accept the fine. The punishment for John and Mark was to be decided in a criminal court. After court, it is shown that Go was shot in the back, and she passes out shortly after. Carried by Cha, they are accosted by journalists, who Cha has very strong words for. An ambulance arrives for her, and the journalists continue to pester them. Cha then exposes to the nation on live TV that all cover-ups came from the Blue House, and the president is at least partially aware of the incident. He also challenges the president to punish the perpetrators or be guilty. The president is watching the entire thing with his prime minister and is very angered by the situation. Cha's address goes viral, much to the pleasure of himself and Go. The president's office holds a press conference on his behalf, but it is a disaster as the spokeswoman cannot convincingly answer any of the questions. The attempted murder of Kim and the John and Mark contract cast a very bad light on his administration.
나한테는 토끼굴이네.
The president and PM then connive to put everything on Senior Secretary Yun. Meanwhile, Go gets surgery done as the right-ticketed bullet was said to graze her spine. They are told she may take a while to walk again, but the surgery was successful. Across the country, protests erupt due to the alleged criminal activities of the government. Yun is called by the president and asks to meet him outside. Yun is aware he is about to be thrown under the bus, but he has insurance. Yun has the video where he received bribe money on behalf of the president on his iPad. He also has audio evidence of the president asking him to raise his price cut from 3% to 5%. Yun meets the president in a temple where he immediately admits guilt and grovels before the president, saying he'll take the blame. When he gets back to his car, he finds the iPad gone. Instead, he finds a bottle of liquor and a chunk of charcoal for which to do the unthinkable. The president gives a personal presidential address where he flat out denies any involvement and admits a little negligence. He announced the sacking of Yun and the director of the NIS.
저는 이번 사태를 불러온 저의 과오를
The director is arrested, but Yun is reported missing. Shortly after, Yun attempts the unthinkable via smoke suffocation. Cha takes care of Go throughout the post-op period, including physiotherapy and cold compresses. When Go eventually wakes up, Cha is gone, but Gong is there to give her good news about work. Jessica plots to leave the country, but she is told she's not allowed to and might soon be arrested. She is forced to do a press conference where she immediately tries to put all the blame on the dead vice president. However, all the family of dead passengers are present, and they hold up pictures of those they lost. Jessica soldiers on to finish her statement, but there is a new viral moment. Footage is found of the Minister of Defense and his aides eating, drinking, and partying with Jessica. Jessica is quickly arrested. In jail, Oh-Sung-mi and Kim fight about their situation, but it is only a ploy to slip something onto her hands. When Oh-Sung-mi returns, she finds a new cellmate who she realizes is Jessica. Jessica takes the opportunity to mock her, and Oh-Sung-mi directs the others to beat her up.
딱 죽지 않을 만큼만.
Gang says he never sent the Jessica videos, leaving Guy to wonder where they came from. While getting transported to jail, Kim sees a familiar face in a police uniform, Jerome. He tries to alert the other policemen, but he is beaten into submission. Yun is critical at the hospital, and Go gets a visit from Cha. He then teaches her slowly how to walk again by making her stand on his feet. Jessica is visited by her lawyer, and she wants him to extradite her to the US. He also sets up an outside cell meeting between Jessica and Oh-Sung-mi. Jessica beats her up and gets the rest of her cellmates to turn on her. Eventually, Oh Sung-mi is released, and she now has access to their money from bribery. Go resumes at work and gets flowers from Guy. She first visits the grave of dead agents and cries as she remembers their deaths. Jessica asks Lily to follow Oh Sung-mi on the outside and sends something to Cha. Cha is sent the video his brother made at the airport. It was sent by Lily for Jessica, who wants to meet Cha. He then calls Go to tell her he's on his way to pick her up. Go wears makeup, hoping it's a date. Unfortunately, all they did was visit Jessica in jail. Jessica then tells them that she never ordered the plane crash. She also says she never ordered the death of Michael. They ask about Michael's girlfriend, and Jessica says she doesn't know much other than the fact that she's Japanese. The NIS and Jessica's mercenaries go after Oh Sung-mi, but it seems she has disappeared. Guy says they need to find out 3 things to know: who's really pulling the strings, who released Oh Sung-mi from jail, who is the bomber's girlfriend, what organization does the bomber work for. All the while, Kim has been locked away in a mental health facility for his addiction problems. He is regularly sedated to keep him from being a nuisance. Jerome also controls the facility and keeps an eye on him 24/7. Cha and Go visit Kim, and he's given a stimulant and a stern warning to not reveal any answers to them. On speaking to Kim, he is too afraid to tell them anything about Jerome or Michael's girlfriend. Before Kim can offer any answers, the guards come and take him away. As he's being dragged out, he tells them that Jerome is here and that they need to help him. However, it sounds far-fetched, and they don't really buy it. It is shown that Jerome was not killed by his superior, Samuel, earlier, but was spared for a second chance. A background check on Jerome reveals he was born Korean and lived in an orphanage, but was adopted to France and then disowned. He had a violent childhood and spent some time in prison in his early years. The Prime Minister visits Yun, and it is revealed that the Prime Minister was behind the charcoal in the car. He was also the one who took him to the hospital after the attempted suicide, because he wanted the secret information on the president. Prime Minister Hong says he needs all the info on the president for his ultimate plan. Yun asks him who really is, and he says he is a true patriot, unlike the president. The Prime Minister calls Cha to invite him to the meeting. On getting there, he realizes all the other bereaved family members and press were there too. It was a press conference. The president gets information about this surprise press conference and calls the prime minister, only to be ignored. In the press conference, the prime minister plays the recording of Jessica confessing to bribing the president with $500 million. This totally ruins the president and almost gives him a heart attack. The Prime Minister makes a great show of apologizing to everyone, which was endearing, but made Cha and Go slightly skeptical. The President mounts his defense, gathers his staff, and makes plans, but his plan depends on Yun not surviving. He visits Yun at the hospital and tells him he must never wake up and then leaves. Unfortunately for him, Yun woke up a long time ago. Go and Cha wonder about the Prime Minister's stunt, and then God corroborates their doubt by telling them the Prime Minister was the one who secured Oh Sung-mi's release. Guy theorizes that the Prime Minister wants the President to step down for him, and that may have been the plan all along. Meanwhile, Gang and Gong go to Bullet Chicken and hack into the CIA to find info on Jerome. On their way back from the restaurant, Cha has to carry Go due to her hurting legs. He mentions the reporter from earlier who died in the hotel's room, and they decide to check out his workplace. The next day, it is revealed that he actually died, but of a car crash in New Zealand. They realize that the reporter was using a stolen identity, and therefore was in on the ruse.
고집 부리지 말고 빨리 업혀. 택시 찾기도 애매해.
Shortly afterwards, that reporter and Jessica's aide are seen communicating with the Prime Minister as they prepare to go to the US. It is also revealed that Jessica's aide is the nephew of the Prime Minister and has been on his side all along. The President holds a press conference of his own, where he vehemently denies any relationship with the awful deal. Just then, Hong walks into the Blue House and gets into a standoff for the President, and both of them declaring war. The President plans a coalition of his own with opposition leaders and stakeholders. Oh Sung-mi is still being chased by mercenaries, so she calls Che for help while being hotly pursued by Jerome. Che goes to her apartment to look for her, but then stumbles into Jerome. Guy and Go visited Kim, where they're told he had been kidnapped from his cell. A battle ensues between Cha and Jerome. Oh Sung-mi tries to use the chaos to escape, but there is another killer who then chases after her and kills her. With her last breath, she whispers the name Samuel and draws an incomplete symbol with her blood. Gang and Guy theorizes that the Prime Minister and Samuel must be working together. While in the bathroom, Cha brainstorms about where he may have seen the symbol before. He eventually realizes it was the same tattoo he saw on Jerome's chest during their first fight. He storms out of the bathroom in excitement, but runs right back after he realizes Go is in his house. He is deeply embarrassed, but reports the sign findings to Gang. He tries to talk about the bathroom situation. She says she didn't see anything, but while he was pretending to be sleeping, she admits to seeing everything. Gang asks Min, now in NIS custody, if he knows the sign seen by Cha. Doesn't. He then tries to beg Gang to let him out for his family's sake, to no avail. The NIS reach out to Jessica, who doesn't know, but tasks Lily and the other mercenaries to find out what they can about Samuel. Cha decides he wants to see the president, and he stakes outside the Blue House. The president drives along, and Cha jumps in front of his convoy. He fights off a few agents and gets to the president, who he tells is being set up. The president, who was already looking for a lifeline, agrees to speak with him in private.
교통에 방해되니까.
Afterwards, the president goes to see Yun in the hospital, but Yun has gone to turn himself in to the NIS. This all but condemned the president's administration. He turns in a secret account and password which he says has everything they need. This change of heart comes after the PM shares with him the full plan and tells him who his backers are. Guy then asks him about Samuel, which was an unexpected question for Yun. He refuses to answer and returns to the hospital. Information from the account leads to proof of the bribes being received by the president. There are more mass protests and demonstrations in response, leading to an impeachment of the president. Distraught, the president tries to overdose on pills, but he spills the water and changes his mind. He then calls Cha, and they meet. He offers Cha help, but Cha turns it down, saying he could have used it earlier. In Bullet Chicken, Go and Gong realize the hacker has found info on Jerome. He is in an American mercenary company called Black Sun, and Go thinks the woman who introduced Michael to Jerome belongs there too. She tells all this to Cha, who asks Edwards if he knows about them.
미국 노스캐롤라이나에 있는 운명회사인데.
Edwards says he does and asks to meet in his office. However, as he gets to the parking lot, he gets a phone call from the wife of the journalist about her husband's death. As he starts to do the math, he remembers the opportune times he has met Edwards as well as the convenience of some arrangements. He also realizes that the description for Michael's girlfriend matched that of Edwards' secretary. While Mickey is serving him tea, he intentionally spills some water on her arm. He then apologetically wipes it off to find a Black Sun tattoo. Cha then deduces that Edwards is behind the death of Michael. It is also the reason Jerome was spared. Indeed, Edwards has been Samuel the whole time. Edward realizes that Cha knows and secretly reaches for a gun. However, Cha anticipated this and stabs him in the arm with a pen. Edward, or Samuel, then reveals he has been helping Cha along in many ways. He brags about his resourcefulness, patriotism, and how the deaths along the way mean little to him, including that of Hoon. Cha shoots him in the shoulder, and other Black Sun goons comes into the office. Cha holds Edwards hostage so they don't shoot him, but Edward had a plan. He sent out mercenaries as soon as Cha mentioned the term Black Sun over the phone.
내가 초대한 손님이 있는데.
The secretary turns on the TV to show the bereaved families. A bomb is placed at the restaurant where they gathered to eat. He also shows that he has a sniper trained on Go Harry. Cha is then forced to choose between saving them or getting revenge. He chooses to save them, and Edward then knocks him out. He is taken to the same warehouse that Kin was taken to and tortured. Edward starts to pour fuel in the warehouse, trying to burn them alive. While they are bound and helpless, Edwards lights the fire with mobile phone detonation, and the warehouse explodes shortly after. Shortly after, the president announces he is stepping down. The warehouse is found burnt to a fine crisp with Cha's items and fingerprints found in the warehouse. Go is called by Guy, who says they found some bodies. They were able to identify one as Kim, but are not too sure about the other. However, the blood type is O, which matches Cha's. They also find other personal items that confirm his presence. The body is burnt beyond recognition and is buried. Go mourns Cha, but it is revealed that he is secretly alive. Before he could burn to death, Cha broke through the cuffs and evaded the fire. However, the warehouse was barricaded from the outside. He passes out from the smoke, but is saved by Lily, Kim Do-soo, and a third mercenary. Cha, Lily, and Kim Do-soo survive, but Kim and the mercenary perish. Samuel requests to meet the new acting president, who is stunned to see it is Edward. Edwards gives him instructions for his new role, including first wrapping up investigations related to the plane crash. Cha decides the only way to defeat Black Sun is from within. He asks Lily for training, but she says she is too expensive. He then calls the former president, who thinks he is dead. He is surprised to see Cha and offers him as much money as he needs. Cha says he's going to the monster's den to kill the monster, and it can't die unless it's complete. Lily calls Jessica to tell her that Samuel was always Edward Park, who is surprised. She then advises Jessica to watch her back. Shortly afterwards, she sees Jerome trailing her in prison. To protect herself, she gives a note out to Gang and Guy. She tells them that she will tell them the identity of Samuel if they can protect her in jail. Go offers to go into jail and protect her from within while getting information about who Samuel is. They vehemently disagree at first, but they see wisdom in her plan and arrange for her to go inside. Edwards has his eye on her throughout, but chooses not to kill her to see who else may be aware of him. Both women manage to meet each other in prison, but have to fake a fight to convince the guards they're not conniving. Eventually, Jessica tells her some male is Edward's, before they're both taken to solitary confinement. When she's out, she is visited by Edward, who just wants to know how much she knows. Go plays along, constructing an elaborate ruse where she comes into jail only to kill Jessica in revenge for killing Cha. Edward does not completely believes it, but she makes it believable by showing real hate towards Jessica. She even stabs her with a scalpel to sell it. Jessica then requests a phone call with Edwards and a meeting afterwards. She offers him all John and Mark's secrets because they did not help her when she got in trouble.
NEC에서 제재 들어갈 거고 주가 바닥실.
She asks him for nothing in return, and he is suspicious, but he aids her extradition to the US anyway, not wanting her to be killed by Go. Jessica is taken to the US where she becomes a free woman. When Go gets out of prison, she is picked up by Jessica, who offers to take her to the US and train her in her craft, lobbying. She has a plan to get revenge on the current Korean government and tells Go that she cannot achieve her goals with her current status. Go agrees to go with her. Months later, Cha has gotten into Black Sun with training from Lily and Kim Do-soo. He is part of a Black Ops squad in a bioweapons mission in Africa. After the mission, he is informed that his team will rendezvous with Jerome. Despite Lily and Kim's advice and protests, he immediately kills his entire squad and lays in wait for Jerome to finally get his revenge for his nephew. Jerome goes to the meeting point, but finds only dead mercenaries. He is paranoid, but the weapons are still intact, which what matters to him. He takes one canister out to inspect it, but he is shot by a masked man with a gas mask. Before he can react, Cha makes the canister detonate and the corrosive pathogen is released. Jerome suffers greatly as the pain is excruciating. Cha tells him who he is and tells him he has an antidote that he will only share if he tells Cha his organization's plan for the chemical weapons. Jerome tells him, which is to destabilize another country to gain oil projects for Korea and boost the acting president, who is a Black Sun puppet. He then tells Jerome to remember his nephew's name in hell, destroys the antidote and walks away, exploding the building behind him. Edward then travels to Korea, the oil country, to oversee the next phase of Black Sun domination personally. He goes with Min, Yun, and Mickey. The show ends in the northern African nation of Korea. A new lobbyist is said to be disrupting Black Sun's plans, and Cha was hired to kill her, alongside an annoying Russian sniper. Before he pulls the trigger, he recognizes her as Go, and instead kills the Russian sniper.